Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
Hey, y'all, it's Jim Chapman with Real Life Real Crime Daily. Unfortunately, we had a technical difficulty today. And look, you can listen to it right here.
In Pennsylvania, a judge is charged in the shooting of her ex-boyfriend while he slept. In Tennessee, a man is sentenced in the murder and beheading of his roommate, and 2 adults have been charged in the Kansas City parade shooting.
So you can see that is nothing you want to listen to a whole episode about. So we are revamping an old episode from January of 2023 on the Lufthansa heist. I hope you enjoy it. I apologize for the audio. I'm recording this from my cell phone, but we wanted to get you something out today, so here it is. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Real Life Real Crime Daily. And I'm Jim Chapman.
I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agavino. And today we are going to continue with our Crimes of the Century series, going in a little bit different direction today, talking about the Lufthansa heist of 1978. For those of you who don't know, Lufthansa is the national airline of Germany and has been around for a gazillion years. I believe it's owned by the German government. The biggest heist in U.S. history at the time it was committed at JFK Airport in New York in 1978. We are going to talk about the heist. We're going to talk about the people involved on the inside, the people involved on the outside, how pieces of this story were blended into the movie Goodfellas, and go back and forth a little bit between some of the characters in the movie and those in real life. And I think you'll find this really informative. So we're going to first talk about the mafia a little bit and give you a feel for structures and who's got what job and how it all kind of works.
Yeah, so in 1931, following decades of turf warfare, Brooklyn bootlegger Salvatore Maranzano established the leaders of the New York City's 5 largest Italian-American criminal organizations and declared himself capo di tutti capi, which is translated the boss of all bosses. Maranzano was soon killed off. The other bosses preferred sharing leadership under what became known as the Commission, but his creation lived on, and the 5 families of New York became central players in the saga of the American Mafia. The 5 families of New York consisted of the Bonanno family, the Colombo family, the Genovese family, the Lucchese family, and the Gambino family. The New York Mafia in the 70s had their hands in everything: extortion, hijacking, gambling, loan sharking, drug trafficking, prostitution, weapons dealing, smuggling, counterfeiting, robbery, and a ton of other things. And they favored unregulated or cash-based businesses that required the strength and the stomach to do things members of polite society typically avoid. Now, the connection between the garbage hauling industry and organized crime goes back decades. In the U.S., La Cosa Nostra has been part of New York's commercial sanitation system since about the 1950s. Personal trash is hauled by the city's Department of Sanitation. Carters, as trash haulers are known, have always been able to carve out and sell routes to one another, which made the system vulnerable to strong-arm tactics. The Mafia entered the industry through the Teamsters Union, gained influence over certain routes, and using unsavory tactics to keep competition at bay. When a national waste industry leader, Browning Ferris Industries, entered the New York market in 1992, an executive's wife found the decapitated head of a German shepherd on her lawn. In its mouth was a note, and it read, "Welcome to New York."
Jim, I want to jump in with a quick story, and I hope my dearly departed Uncle Pete Filiberto will forgive me for this one. But when I was getting married for the first time, my parents wanted to hold a sort of an informal dinner with my fiance's family, which is from Tennessee, and some of our closest relatives at our house in New York. And so my first wife and her mother and her stepdad flew to New York, and my aunt and uncle, Pete and Tilly, joined us for dinner. And this conversation got going along. My first mother-in-law asked my Uncle Pete what he did for work, and he explained that he had a sanitation company, and that sanitation company really existed to service the garment industry in New York City. To which my former, what was the song with the future ex-mother-in-law? Who was it? You know that whole one? I'm not going to have to see my future ex-mother-in-law. Come on, that's a huge country hit. Whatever. But this, my ex-mother-in-law said, "Well, now, Pete, isn't it really competitive in that business?" And my Uncle Pete said, "Well, it can be, but we do quite well." And then she said, "Well, I don't understand. Can't somebody just come in and say they're going to pick up garbage for 20% less than you do it?" And Uncle Pete said, "Well, theoretically they could." And my ex-mother-in-law said, well, what do you mean? Why couldn't they? And my Uncle Pete just looked at me and looked at my father and was like, "This woman's not getting it." And so my father jumped in and just said, "Paula, nobody is going to compete with Pete." And the light bulb kind of finally went off. Right. And so yes, if you had a particular turf, you controlled that area, you were protected, you paid for that protection, and it was a pretty nice,
and you know what?
Business, and pretty well organized.
Their business stunk.
Yes, the business did.
But
stink.
It was picking up.
But it was picking up. But
I knew you were going to say that.
But it was garment industry, so it didn't stink that bad. There's worse industries you could be doing that for. Sorry, Uncle Pete.
That's all right. So, it's important to understand the structure of the mafia and what made the mafia an organization that had such a longevity was the structure. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the each person in that family tree of the mafia. Now you have the boss, and some people know that as the Don. That is the head of the family, and all the big decisions run through the Don. This would be the Marlon Brando, or later the Al Pacino character in The Godfather, for those of you that have watched that classic. Now, the consigliere is the trusted advisor to the Don. This would be like Robert Duvall if you watch The Godfather. The underboss is like the primary operations guy. All the capos, or what's known as captains, get their marching orders or approvals from the underboss. Think of Sammy the Bull Gravano. I'm sure everybody's heard of him. He was an underboss in the in the Gambino crime family. So until the RICO status was enforced by the FBI, Dons, underbosses, and consiglieres were virtually impossible to tie to crimes of the family, because of all those crimes were being committed by captains, soldiers, and associates. They weren't, the orders were just being given by the underboss, the consigliere, and the boss of that family. Now, a captain had a crew, as he would refer to them, and that was his soldiers, and he had major status and influence in the organization. In general, the term indicates the head of a branch of an organized crime syndicate who commands a crew of soldiers and reports directly to the underboss or the street boss. A soldier is a member of the crime family, so they're a made member. And they usually start off their criminal careers as associates to the family until they have proven themselves, also known as getting made in the mafia. When there's a vacant position in the family, a captain may recommend an up-and-coming associate to be a new member. A newly made soldier usually becomes part of the crew of the captain who recommended them. The lesson in the mafia structure is important to understand in order to truly understand what happened in the Lufthansa heist.
Both the Lucchese family and the Gambino family were very active in Queens, and specifically the John F. Kennedy International Airport area, y'all. This paved the way for the immensely powerful Carlo Gambino and later the infamous John Gotti, who orchestrated the 1985 hit on Gambino's hand-picked successor, Paul Castellano, before he was done by the testimony of one of basically his underboss, Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Can I tell another story?
Yep, sure.
If the Uncle Pete story didn't disqualify me from telling stories.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So my first job in Manhattan in 1984 was selling radio advertising time, selling commercials. And I worked out of a building called Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza. Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza was at 2nd Avenue and covered 47th and 48th Streets. One day in December of 1985, as a rookie salesperson in my office about 5:30 in the afternoon, I heard a loud bang and a couple other loud bangs, as did everyone else in my office. And we looked out the window and we saw people starting to rush on the 47th Street side of the building in that direction. So we jumped in the elevator, went downstairs, and there's a little pass-through alley between 2nd and 3rd Avenue on 47th that took you right to 46th Street. And when you came out of that little alley, you were staring at Sparks Steakhouse right across from the alley. And as we are coming out of the alley, we see the crowd, and the crowd is gathered around a body that is down on the street outside of a car, and they have already pulled one of the signature tablecloths out of Sparks and covered the body with it. And then people start talking, and you learn that it's a hit. I didn't at the time know it was John Gotti and it was Paul Castellano, but you read about that immediately the next day. But pretty amazing that we were right there for that when it happened in 85.
That's crazy. That's one of my, and I know Jim's also one of most famous scenes in my mind. Before Gotti killed Castellano and Mike ran down from his building to check out the crime scene, John Gotti was a capo in the Gambino crime family operating out of Howard Beach, Queens, in a very convenient location to the JFK airport. The business of hijacking cargo, going in and out of the various cargo terminals at JFK was robust, and Gotti's crew was cleaning up in the latter part of the 1970s. Likewise, just across the Belt Parkway from Howard Beach in the town of Ozone Park, the Lucchese family capo, Paul Vario, operated his headquarters. Business was so good for both the Lucchese and the Gambinos that they often worked capers together. That's jobs, y'all. Many of the workers from the cargo terminals drank in the bars of Howard Beach and Ozone Park and often traded tips or information for cash or gambling debts forgiveness. Gotti's crew and Vario's crew each had control of a bar. In Ozone Park, that bar was Robert's Lounge, owned by Lucchese associate Jimmy Burke. Two of those cargo workers that liked to gamble and hit the bars were Peter Grunwald and Louis Werner. Grunwald was a Lufthansa cargo agent at JFK, and Louis was the Lufthansa cargo supervisor. Grunwald had a pathological gambling addict and completely lost interest in his mundane airport job. His job consisted of giving quotations, queries, rates, handling airline shipment bookings, arranging custom clearances, deliveries, and invoices, and directly dealt with airlines, shipping liners, and freight forwarders. When his friend and co-worker, Louis Werner, came up with the robbery plan for Lufthansa Heist, Peter was given the task of frequenting the airport bars like Bamboo Lounge, the bar at the Holiday Inn in Jamaica, Queens, the Motion Lounge in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, the Bergen Hut and Fish Club, which was John Gotti's place, and some other spots in Ozone Park, canvassing them, looking for a team that could pull off the robbery. Grunberg's efforts were failing, and Werner became angry at his incompetence and decided to take matters in his own hands. Werner shared the plan with his numbers runner, a guy by the name of Frank Minna, who then introduced the plan to Werner's regular bookmaker, Martin Krugman, who Werner was in considerable debt to. Krugman then approached a mid-level drug dealer by the name of Henry Hill. Hill, in turn, pulled in his mentor and Lucchese associate, Jimmy the Gent Burke. You got that? The plan goes from Werner to Minna to Krugman to Hill to Burke. So the basics of the plans, y'all, there were large amounts of untraceable U.S. currency in lower denominations would often come in Lufthansa cargo. The money would come largely from dollars exchanged by U.S. nationals while traveling abroad. Lufthansa would aggregate these dollars from various exchange kiosks and bank locations throughout Germany, and Commerzbank would send the currency to Chase Manhattan Bank in New York City. The money would be held in a vault inside the Lufthansa cargo, awaiting a pickup by Brink's truck to take it to Chase. The Brink's pickup would normally occur within 3 hours of the currency arriving at the Lufthansa cargo. Hill and Burke would put together a crew that could spring into action quickly and make the JFK run and steal the money before the Brink's truck arrived. Werner gave them all the information they needed to access the vault and grab the money once they were inside the warehouse. Hill and Burke assembled the crew. Jimmy got Paul Vario to sign off on the job, and they waited for their opportunity.
So Louis Werner wasn't confident in the crew nor the 3-hour window. And so when he was alerted that a shipment had arrived on Friday, December 9th, 1978, he found a way to stall the Brink's pickup. The pickup would happen on Monday morning instead of Friday, and the money would be sitting there all weekend. At 3 a.m. on Monday, December 11th, 1978, 6 guys wearing ski masks pulled up to the warehouse in a black Ford van. They easily sliced the gate padlock with bolt cutters, and they were inside the cargo terminal area. Then they bust directly into the Lufthansa airline cargo terminal. They gathered up 10 or so employees, put them in the break room at gunpoint, and forced the night shift manager to disable the alarm and open the vault. Werner had given them very detailed instructions on what to do once they were in there. They hauled 40 15-pound, y'all, cartons of cash and jewels into the van, and only 2 of the crew left in the van. The others piled into a getaway car they had waiting, and the entire job took just over an hour. They never fired a gun. They didn't have to harm anyone, and they did a little more than just a pistol whip to one particular guy. They were long gone before authorities would arrive. The crew met up at the warehouse owned by John Gotti, and Gotti gave them instructions on where to take the van to have it destroyed. They had just completed the largest robbery in U.S. history at the time and walked out with $5.8 million in cash, which in today's dollar equates to about $22 million, and $800,000 worth of jewels.
That's love.
These guys had no idea that there was $5.8 million in cash there.
Much less jewels.
Werner had told them, and apparently most of these occasions where they would get these shipments and hold them for a Brinks truck involved hundreds of thousands of dollars, something like that. And so they were anticipating something in that kind of range, and unbelievably, it turned into nearly $6 million in cash. 2 days after the heist, police found the van, that black Ford Econoline van that they used, stranded, actually parked in front of a fire hydrant in Canarsie, Brooklyn. A guy by the name of Parnell Stacks Edwards was supposed to take the van to Gotti's junkyard and have it destroyed. So this van was supposed to be long gone. This guy gets on a bender, does whatever the heck he ends up doing, and
you had one job.
You had one job, exactly. And so you may remember the scene in Goodfellas where a young Samuel L. Jackson gets taken out with a shot to the head by a young Joe Pesci, who was playing the role of Tommy Two Guns DeSimone, although they gave him a different name. I think they called him DeVito in the movie, but in real life, it's Tommy Two Guns DeSimone. And so what happens is the papers and television in reports claim that the van has been found and they've found fingerprints on the van. Well, Jimmy Burke knows that the entire crew was wearing gloves. The only idiot who could possibly have left prints on the van was Stacks. And so at that point, Stacks was a major liability and he had to go.
Stacks
and
got
so yes. So in the movie, you see Pesci and one other character who was playing the role of Angelo Seppi go to Stax's place, and I don't remember if they did this in Goodfellas, but in real life, Stax was in the middle of eating a piece of chicken, and when the police eventually got to his place, the chicken was still in his mouth. Nice. I don't think they did. I think in the movie they showed him in bed, and they pulled him out of bed and then shot him. While Jimmy was concerned about the van leading the cops to Stacks and Stacks leading the cops to Jimmy and his crew, little did he know that the cops knew within minutes, within an hour of the crime, that there were only 2 possible ways that this happened. They knew that both Gotti's crew and Burke's crew were working these hijackings at JFK for years. And if a job is going to occur inside of one of the cargo terminals at JFK, it's going to be one of those crews. And so it was only a matter of time before somebody did something stupid where it became obvious which crew it was. There's a bunch of stuff you can watch online that's a lot of it's really funny about cops from that era that worked the case talking about these guys that were part of the of the crew and some of the ridiculousness that was going on. And so so the cops knew, and the cops lay in wait basically for somebody to make a mistake. There's a famous scene in Goodfellas that you probably remember where two of the crew show up at the restaurant at Jimmy's restaurant. It's called Robert's, and they show up one after another, and one has bought a new pink Cadillac, and the other has bought a new mink for his wife. And Robert De Niro, who's playing Jimmy Burke again in the movie, I think they call him Jimmy Conway, but he's playing the Burke character, goes nuts. I told you guys to lay low, not buy anything, and you're going to lead the cops right to us. And of course, the cops were waiting for such a for somebody to screw up and make a dumb decision like buying a Cadillac or a mink. And so, by the summer of 1979, Burke had ordered the execution of 9 guys, all of whom were connected to the heist in one way or another. Killing them off was a much better economic play for Burke. Each of these guys were due $400,000 to $500,000 for their part in the heist, and he thought they were all idiots that were screwing things up and leading the cops and the FBI to him. And so why not just one of our most loyal sponsors here at Real Life, Real Crime and The Daily Show has been Rosetta Stone, the most trusted language learning program in the entire galaxy. For us and for many of you listening, learning a new language has become a priority. Whether it's for work reasons, family, or getting ready for an international trip, Rosetta Stone's been there for us with a great product at a great price.
Rosetta Stone is the trusted expert in language learning for 30 years with millions of users.
Hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement, it's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Hey y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glaze, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, and all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
Rosetta Stone's intuitive process helps you pick up a new language naturally so you retain what you learn, and their true accent speech recognition features like having a personal trainer.
Don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a very limited time, Real Life Real Crime and The Daily Show listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. Visit rosettastone.com/today. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% off at rosettastone.com/today today. Ciao.
Something amazing is happening in meteorology. Climate researchers are successfully processing a data storm. That's because CDW transformed their laptop devices and infrastructure to pre-configured Lenovo ThinkPads and powerful edge-to-cloud solutions. By delivering faster insights to run more accurate forecast models, it's almost like they're controlling the weather themselves. Lenovo and CDW. Make amazing happen. Find out more at cdw.com/Lenovo client.
Get rid of them and save the family the $400,000 or $500,000 in expense. Marty Krugman was becoming a huge pain in Jimmy's ass, and again, if you've seen the movie Goodfellas, the guy who plays Krugman's role, I don't remember the actor, but he's in the movie they make him out to be a guy selling hair pieces, like a hair club for men guy, and he jumps in a pool at one point and his hair falls off or whatever. This guy is in debt to a bunch of people for gambling stuff, and he's just, he's a flock of loose parts. The guy's a mess, and he is constantly needling Jimmy for money and wearing on Jimmy's patience. And so Jimmy ran out of patience, and he had Angelo Seppi kill him, dismember his body, and dump it, and Krugman's body was never found. At the end of February 1979, Louis Werner is arrested. If you remember, Louis Werner is one of the 2 guys that worked at Lufthansa Cargo who hatched this entire plan for the heist. Right. The guy that hatched the plan with him, Peter Grunwald, who was a lower level than Werner. Werner was the supervisor at Lufthansa Cargo, and Grunwald worked for him. But Grunwald was just a drunk and a gambler and a guy that the FBI identified as somebody they could go after and shake and was going to fade. And so, but Grunwald had not been involved with any of the stuff going on with the Lucchese family, with Burke and his crew. So he really didn't know a whole lot. The only thing he really knew was that Werner had arranged all of that stuff. And so the only person ever convicted of a crime related to the Lufthansa heist was Werner, who was given up by Grunwald and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. And so he went away. Burke never got a chance to take him out. Within a few weeks, Burke had his former prison roommate, and you might remember this scene from the movie. The guy who had purchased the pink Cadillac was Louis Roastbeef Kafora, and he was taken out along with his wife because of that purchase of the pink Cadillac, and so the crew members are disappearing rapidly. Robert Frenchie McMahon and Joe Buddha Monry, who both refused to cooperate with the FBI, but because of contact happening with the FBI, Jimmy was convinced that maybe something was going on there. Well, those 2 guys were found shot in the back of the head, execution style, in a parked car. A month later, the burned, naked, and bullet-ridden corpse of Paolo Lacastri was found in a Brooklyn trash heap. So, they are just fallen. 3 guys were murdered for supposedly skimming from the laundered cash. That included a guy by the name of Richard Eaton. Remember that name. He will become very important. Tom Monteleone and Teresa Ferrara were the others, and Ferrara's body washed up on the Jersey Shore somewhere a bit later. And so 2 others were also killed for breaking family code in July of 1984. Angelo Seppi was killed by the Lucchese family for stealing from the family, and Tommy Two Guns was shot in the head by Gotti for killing 2 Gambino family members without permission. Another famous scene out of Goodfellas is they all believe, so Jimmy believes that that Tommy is going to get made. And this is, by the way, Henry Hill was the Ray Liotta character in Goodfellas, right. And Goodfellas was delivered first person through him, so he essentially was narrating the film. Henry was involved in the very front end of this, just connecting Jimmy to everything, but he wasn't part of the crew. He wasn't in the middle of all of this stuff. He was really on the periphery, and so Jimmy and Henry believed that the Joe Pesci character, who is Tommy Two Guns DeSimone, was going to be made, and rather than being made when he showed up where he showed up, he was popped by Gotti. Now, they say in the movie that he was shot in the face so that his mother couldn't have an open casket at his funeral, but in fact, his body was never found.
Yeah, well, dead people tell no tales. Can't testify.
Indeed. So you may wonder how Henry Hill was connected to all this. Well, Hill brought Marty Krugman and the heist job to Jimmy, and for that he had been paid pretty nicely, but he had not been part of the crew, nor had he been involved with any of it. But still, Hill knew things. Hill was a drug dealer. He had gone away for it, but he never ratted. He was able to pick things back up when he got released, but after a while, the feds started putting real pressure on him. With the body bags piling up surrounding Lufthansa, Henry was arrested again on drug charges. He realized it was just a matter of time before his pal Jimmy had him whacked. So Henry Hill enters the witness protection program. Now, in exchange for being spared prison, Hill ratted out dozens and dozens of crimes by mob associates, including crimes committed by both Burke and Vario. Burke was convicted for Eaton's murder and also for point shaving during a scheme at Boston College. Vario was jailed for extorting freight companies. Both Burke and Vario died of lung cancer while still in prison.
That's really probably one of the most interesting stories, but every great story has to have a good ending, right? And this one really doesn't. You might say, I'm asking about who got the money, honey, right?
Yeah.
But everybody's dead. And even Henry Hill had a heart attack in 2012 and died, y'all. The authorities never recovered any of the money or the jewels. So somebody got it, right?
John Gotti got it.
John Gotti got it. Somebody got it.
Gotti got a little bit of it, but it's the Lucchese's got it.
Yeah, well, you know what? Somebody got paid. It wasn't these assholes that got killed. Other than some, yeah. I don't think he got the pink Cadillac or the mink on credit. So maybe they gave him a little cut up front or something.
Yeah. No, they were laundering money throughout, and he was sprinkling it around with the proviso that you were not to go out and spend. Right, so Jimmy, but that was naive.
He didn't give them $400,000 and $500,000,
right?
Because they would have had to fence the jewels and wash the money and stuff like that.
Right, but the cops were already on them.
Yeah,
I think a huge part of this thing, and Jim, I think you know something about this, is the RICO laws and the RICO laws coming in because through RICO for the first time, law enforcement had a way of getting at the big guys,
right,
when traditionally, I mean, they were on a treadmill chasing the mob because they could get associates and they could get the occasional soldier, but they weren't getting capos and they weren't getting ever above the capo level. But with RICO, they were able to, a crime by one was a crime by all.
That's exactly right. And RICO is what single-handedly took down the mob. It was a genius idea from the government in order to basically get to the ones at the very top of these organizations, the underbosses and the bosses. And before that, as we said at the beginning of this story, everything was carried out by the soldiers and the captains in some cases. None of it was getting anywhere near the top. And what happened is it became a save-ass problem because of RICO. So you had underbosses such as Sammy the Bull who were testifying against the bosses. You had captains testifying against consiglieres, or cooperating rather, which eventually resulted in testimony. And all that was caused by RICO, because before that there was no threat to them.
Yeah.
They weren't the ones going out there shooting somebody in the head. They were just telling the captains to order the soldiers to do it, or the captains and the soldiers together as a crew would do it. RICO changed all that, because if even the order was given down, you were just as guilty.
Right. So specifically in this case, Burke gives the order to kill Eaton, and Hill takes the deal, and Hill rats on Burke giving the order for Eaton to get killed. And that is the major crime for which Burke spends the rest of his life in prison.
100%. And without RICO, that never would have happened.
Exactly.
That never would have happened.
So RICO, it stands for Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. It's a United States federal law that provides for extended criminal penalties and civil cause of action for acts performed as part of an ongoing criminal organization. This started with the mob. They use it for gangs and drug dealers now and everything else.
That's right.
So not only did they say you could use one witness basically, or to bring down a whole organization if they had the knowledge, the correct knowledge. And not only that, they went after the money.
Well, and we did a story, Woody, recently about Young Thug, and that is a RICO case.
Right. So it's very successful. It really gives teeth to federal law that they didn't have before, the mafia. And then it was created for the mafia, and that's a fact.
The other thing that Burke went away for, this point shaving scheme that involved Boston College, there's a great 30 for 30 that ESPN did on that. And the crew involved there includes the same guys that the movie The Departed was based upon. So you have actually the Goodfellas crew and the Departed crew converging in that. And, it's well worth seeing that 30 for 30. It's amazing that many high-level guys were involved in a scheme that was just, it was amateur hour, but needs well worth seeing.
Yeah, indeed.
So RICO was signed into law by President Nixon in 1970.
Interesting.
It was, but
never enforced.
But
really.
Also interesting is none of these guys really knew about it. Right. And there's a professor at Cornell who had worked for the government, who was the architect of RICO, who summoned, and somehow this was mandated, summoned a bunch of law enforcement, FBI and other departments up to Ithaca, New York, to Cornell to go through a seminar in RICO. And this was like an epiphany for all of these folks. They just never knew that there was a way, and it changed their entire approach to the mob. So
ignorance of the law is no excuse, but they damn well know what it is now.
Oh yeah.
Okay, little mini game here. You guys know these. No points involved here. But do you remember who played Henry Hill in the movie?
Yeah, Ray Liotta.
Ray Liotta, right?
He's dead now.
He'd be dead. He'd be dead. And he died young. It was just last year. I believe he passed away.
Great actor.
I actually saw him get interviewed a couple of years ago, and he told the interviewer he had never watched the movie.
Goodfellas.
He had never watched
One, in my
Goodfellas.
opinion, one of the best crime movies of all time.
But isn't that amazing?
I would say, yeah,
Never watched.
top
But,
3 for me.
Yeah.
Casino was really good.
Casino was really good. Of course, I had the book of quotes on my desk at State Police till I retired. Godfather.
Godfather,
all of
yeah,
them.
really good.
Oh.
I wouldn't put
no-
one. I put Casino on.
Okay, I love
Yeah,
Casino.
man, that was
I love the
Sharon
Casino.
Stone
That's very good.
killed it in that movie.
So
Yeah.
many great ones though. But I like Goodfellas.
Well, if you're a Godfather fan, there's a series that
I saw it. I've seen the whole thing.
that I believe it was Paramount Plus did with Miles
Paramount
Teller.
Plus, and
The
about
story of the making
movie.
of
and it's freaking great.
it's awesome.
Really is.
It's awesome. So if you want something to binge,
I binged it,
it's
like,
a
2
it's a
weeks ago.
great binge. It's
Making of the
called The
Godfather.
Offer.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
it.
Miles Teller,
The Offer.
the making of the movie,
and all
and-
based off of real shit,
well, and
including your Sparks murder,
Steakhouse.
the steakhouse. Yeah.
it's Joe Colombo, so it's the Colombo family
right,
in The Godfather that becomes instrumental
Right.
in allowing him to make the movie because
and he's gunned down as the Italian,
yeah.
whatever it is, the organization for Italian Americans.
Watch The Offer. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's good
fabulous.
And if you've never seen Goodfellas, don't worry about it because you just heard the whole motherfucking movie today.
No, but watch.
And it's characters' names. And,
It's a classic.
And,
you have to
and
watch.
Mike's
Pink Cadillacs.
getting to see. Yep. And
Well,
Mike
it's funny.
getting to see the dead body that covered with the. I mean, come on.
The
it's good
cast
shit.
of every mob movie is the cast of every other mob movie.
Right.
They're the
Hey, what
same
was
people
the
that
best in the
Pesci.
offer? They were trying to get the guy, the big dumb guy that went to the wedding, couldn't.
Luca Brasi.
You look at Rossi, and you know who that was? That's Incredible Hulk, dude. The one
Lou
that played-
Ferrigno?
Lou Ferrigno
Lou
played
Ferrigno
him.
played
and
him,
they had to get. They got a real that dude that did it was a real mobster that played the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Luca Brasi swims with the fishes.
Yeah.
Speaking of people in this movie, okay, so one, we talked about Samuel L. Jackson. That's pretty funny that he plays Stax. Anybody remember who played Ray Liotta, Henry Hill's wife?
Oh yeah. I can see her face. It's not Deborah Winger. She looks like Deborah Winger
A little
but,
bit.
I can't remember her name because I'm bad with names. I have an OCD block on names.
She also provided a lot of valuable counseling to one Tony Soprano years ago.
Oh, that's right. She did play the therapist. That's right.
That didn't give it to you?
Yeah, no, I can't do names. You don't understand. My OCD is not washing my hands 4 times a day. It's I literally on purpose
it's
can't. do
Lorraine
names.
Bracco is a great actress.
Yeah, I
and,
agree.
Is
I
great
love
in-
the scene
great
where
in Soprano.
where
She's great in this.
The
movie.
guy's trying to fill her up in the car, and Ray goes over there and pistol whips him, and then gives her the pistol. Yeah, remember that?
When she's frantically trying to hide all the cocaine.
Right.
around
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
That's, I mean,
And
she's
running around
she's-
going helicopters.
You guys remember the scene where Pesci, you think I'm funny? Like
You think
a
I'm
clown
funny? Like, haha, funny?
What am I,
Or
comedian to you?
Comedian? Haha,
Who are you
funny?
laughing at? Come on, man. Come on.
He thought he was going to kill him.
joking
yeah.
around.
He shoots a guy whose name in the movie is Spider. Anybody remember who that?
Spider was like a runner or something. Wasn't he? Yeah. He made the drinks and shit and came up through that. Yeah, but I don't remember his name.
I don't remember.
It was Michael Imperioli.
I don't do names. I remember the faces. I'll never forget.
Imperioli, Sopranos.
I never watched The
Oh
Sopranos.
my God! Help me,
Sopranos
audience, help me.
is-
with these guys.
Never
You gotta watch
watched
that.
it.
You got to watch Sopranos.
Is it good?
It really is good.
I've never watched it. I didn't have
What a,
HBO
what a great
back
binge!
then.
I would
really-
love
you
to have
really
never
are
watched
going-
it and
Yeah.
have the
might
opportunity
go back
to
and
binge
watch
it
it
now.
again.
It's like The Wire. If you've never seen The Wire, you got to go.
I watched that after years and years. The Shield.
I love that
remind
show.
me of that guy.
Oh,
on The
man,
Shield.
dude.
Yeah.
Dude, Michael Chiklis.
Yeah. I don't know his name. But
Michael Chiklis. I have a
Shield's
great
good
story. Oh, I can't look. So he was also in American Horror Story. He did that deal in New
also
Orleans.
played that
Also
superhero.
played the thing in the DC comic series. But I couldn't go to New Orleans for a long time when he was filming that series there because it went like 10 seasons. Without people stopping me wanting to take pictures. And I ain't going to say that a few times I didn't pretend like I was him. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
That's right.
What's up, Michael?
Absolutely.
Oh, I've heard that for 15 years, probably. But The Shield is a great series that not a whole lot of people are familiar with for whatever reason.
I used to have it on DVD.
Oh, so good.
So that scene where Spider is shot by Pesci was a total ad lib, spur of the moment by Pesci. Pesci goes to Scorsese and says, I have an idea. I want to do it. And he just says, okay, go run with it, Joe. And he did it. And Pesci's the best in that. I mean,
he's great.
De Niro's always De Niro and Ray Liotta is good, but I think Pesci steals that movie. Paul Sorvino plays Paul Varia. Well, actually, in the movie, it's Paul Cicero. But
Mia Sorvino's dad? Or
yes.
A lot of them be dead now.
That's how I know him as.
Most of them be dead.
Joe just turned 80, I think, the other day.
Joe be dead soon.
No. Joe,
keep on living, bro. We like
Joe plays golf every day. Joe's still.
Joe's still be dead. Shit, he could get hit by me.
Hey, no, stop.
Let me tell you something.
Hey, my cousin
Joe's
Benny.
a 10. Yeah. Joe's an 11.
Yeah, he's a great actor. Love everything he's in. Home Alone 2. Great movie.
Yes.
It's a great
Home
movie.
Alone, period. Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Tony. So,
he made more money with Home Alone series than he did
tell
any
one
other
last
movie.
stupid Hollywood story, right? Because you just made me
You gotta
think
give
of
me
it.
a voice thing in Hollywood, dude.
But you can't pull out Home Alone as something to put in the Joe Pesci collection of his greatest.
I bet he made more money off of that than any other movie
I bet he didn't, but just to show how stupid I am. So we're out in L.A. and I have a guy I coached Little League Baseball with who was married to what's the name of the singer? It doesn't even matter.
Tony Braxton.
No, it's an old Paul Anka. This is Paul Anka's daughter. Paul Anka's.
Who the hell is Paul Anka?
Paul Anka still goes out. Paul Anka still goes out on tour. You having my baby? Anyway, so wait a second. So her sister married Jason Bateman. Okay. So she's having a birthday party for her. She's having a birthday party for
Ozarks.
Teen Wolf.
Ozarks.
Jim,
that's why I learned how to urban surf.
That was Michael J. Fox.
No more.
Right. No, he did. He did play like the second or third.
I think he was in.
Okay,
one,
that's
but,
where I got
but
it from.
You would have pissed him off more than I did in the story I'm going to tell you.
Ozarks.
So wait a second. So we're at this Ozark. Yeah, great series. Another binge Ozark. Yeah. So we're at this birthday party.
Blood ties.
We're at this birthday party, and I find myself. We're outside sitting next to Jason Bateman trying to figure out, how to make a little bit of small talk. And, my wife, I could just see the fear on her face. Anytime I'm next to one of these Hollywood people when we were in L.A., she would just grimace, what the hell is he going to say to the guy? And
You're still in L.A., right?
So,
you know that.
It's a different L.A. So I tell him that I loved dodgeball. Right? So I tell him I love dodgeball,
great,
which, by the way, I love dodgeball. Right. But I tell him I love dodgeball. And he looks at me and he says, let me tell you about dodgeball. He said, a car picked me up at the house. I got in it. We drove 10 minutes to Burbank Airport. I got on a flight to Vegas. I arrived in Vegas an hour later. Car picked me up. The airport in Vegas, McCarran. Drove over to the Strip, whatever resort they were shooting at. I don't know where it was. I got out. 90 minutes later, I got back in the car, went back to McCarran, flew back to Burbank. I was home 3 hours later.
He's not. That's
I was like, oh my God, I just
love.
Could I possibly have been more disrespectful to the guy than telling him his best work was in dodgeball when it was 3 hours of his life?
Hey,
he didn't.
He never got that from anybody else.
He didn't like that.
He probably has never got it from anybody else since.
I
Teen Wolf.
Urban surfing, crush the roof of the party wagon.
Give me a keg of beer.
I just remember that. All right, that's it. Wrap it up.
I'm Jim Chapman.
I'm Woody Overton.
And I'm Mike Agavino.
With Real Life, Real Crime Daily. Peace.
Shabusiness.